Hi, everybody. I'm Howard Kellman, and welcome to the life and times of Indianapolis Indians legend, Razor Shines. Razor spent 9 years with the Indians as a player, during which time the Indians won 5 championships. We'll be back with Razor in just a moment. Razor, it is absolutely great to see you again.
Well, Howard, I couldn't be happier. You know, I love Indianapolis, love being around you, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that. The feeling is mutual. Before you got to Indianapolis, you got to the big leagues with the Montreal Expos. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, it was unbelievable. First of all, I was in Wrigley Field, a place, you know, historians talk about. And I look, you know, I'm sitting out there, I'm waiting for an opportunity to play, and Bill Verdon was our manager, and he says, Razor, you're going to go into left field. You're going to replace Tim Raines. So I said, okay. So I run out, and Tim Raines comes off the field. So from that day on, it's Raines or Shines, and you know, that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. My first opportunity in the major.
That's really neat. Yeah, I remember hearing they said it either in left field, it's either Rains or Shines. What about, and people, I have to ask you this, I asked you this many years ago, people talk about the name Razor. Where did that come from?
Well, it's a family name. A lot of people don't believe it, so, you know, I usually, you know, give them a story about how I got the nickname, but actually it's a family name. And when they say that, it's, you know, some people say, oh, no, no, and then I say, okay, the Razor comes from this or that, and they enjoy it more, but it was my father's middle name. I think it was his father's middle name. It's my middle name. It's my son's middle name, and it is my grandson's middle name.
That's terrific. Now, you signed a contract with the Montreal Expos to play professional baseball. Tell us the story behind that.
Well, you know, baseball is something, Howard, I've always wanted to do, and I thought I was pretty good at it. And as a kid, I used to tell my mom, you know, I want to play Major League Baseball one day.
Growing up in North Carolina.
Growing up in North Carolina, I used to say that, and, you know, people would like, yeah, right, sure, you know, but I believed I could, because every age group I was in, I was either the best player there or one of the best players there, so I felt like, you know, I was going to be okay. And one day, you know, a quick story, one day, you know, we were playing in a 12 and under league, and I was just tearing them up. And the opposing fans and family members were like, well, he's too old, he shouldn't be there anyway. And my mother said, well, guys, you better get used to it, because he's only 11. He's going to beat you up again next year.
That's great. And then you signed a professional contract with the Expos.
Yes, I did. I got drafted out of St. Augustine's College, and couldn't wait to sign. I mean, I couldn't wait to sign. The minute the scout that drafted me got to my house, I was like, where do I sign, sir? He said, well, this is going to be easy. I said, yes, sir. I just want to sign. I just want to play and work my way to the major leagues.
Which you did then in 1983. 1984, the Indianapolis Indians and Montreal Expos begin a working agreement. 1984, we started the season in Denver with 3 games. Then we came to Indianapolis. And what were your first impressions of Indianapolis that year?
Cold. I mean, you know, it was cold. I didn't expect it to be that cold, but, you know, geographically, it was the time of year when you never know what might happen in Indiana. So, you know, the fans were great. The people were great. I met lifelong friends here, but my first impression was the weather. It was cold.
That was a terrific team. We played 154 games that season, 91 and 63, finishing first, and the regular season pennant winner was the champion that year, and we have the rings to prove that. That 1984 season, your first full year of AAA ball, you were the Indianapolis Indians' most valuable player.
You know, I was like a kid in a candy store. You know, we had some good players, and the leadership, the coaches, they were outstanding, and it just felt like from day one we were just going to run away with this thing. and we did.
Early in that season, Kurt Hunt, the PA announcer, and Bruce Schumacher continued it. Instead of saying now batting razor shines, Kurt said now batting razor shines. And you lined the ball in the gap for a double. And your next time up, Kurt Hunt did it again. He said now batting razor shines. You got another base hit, and it just took off from there.
You know what? The first time I heard that walking to the plate, it kind of startled me a little bit because as a hitter walking to the plate, you're listening for your name because you want to hear the reaction to the crowd. And when I heard that, it kind of startled me, you know, and got in. And as you said, I got a base hit or a double. And then walking to the plate the next time, I wanted to hear it so bad. And he repeated it. And it sounded so great. And then the crowd picked it up and took off from there.
Bruce Schumacher continued that as you played here for 9 years. But what was interesting, I remember a conversation between you and Kurt Hunt where you said, well, you made me. And Kurt said, no, you made me.
Yeah, Kurt told me that we had dinner the other night. And he said, Razor, you know, had you went up there and you made outs, and he said, I think I would have had to stop that. But I said, no, Kurt, thank you. And I appreciated what he did.
Buck Rogers was the manager that year, and he did such a wonderful job with the pitching staff. We didn't have a pitching coach. The next year, Rick Williams was our pitching coach, first time we ever had one. But I thought Buck did a great job with the pitching staff. The guys improved, and Buck was very big proponent of you. He said to me, Razor Shines is very mentally tough and has what it takes to play this game.
You know what, that's coming from a guy that understands the game of baseball. That's a compliment at the highest peak. I mean, you can't get one better than that. And I appreciate that, and I know that he thought that honestly.
He did, and you deserved the MVP. You got it. And the other thing I'd say this about being mentally tough, some people can lose sight of how hard it is to play the game of baseball, because the skills of hitting and pitching are such difficult skills that you're dealing with failure all the time, and it takes a certain strong personality to be able to handle that.
It's like I tell kids when I'm managing, and I managed for a lot of years on the minor league level, from rookie ball all the way to AAA baseball. And if you're going to be successful in baseball, you have to be able to handle your failures, because if you cannot handle failure in baseball, it's not going to work out for you.
1985 was a tough season for the Indianapolis Indians, although when you were here for about a month, the team played well, and I still remember you getting several big hits that season.
Well, you know, it was a tough season for us here in Indianapolis because the last I've known of Indianapolis was '84, and we, as you mentioned, was 91 and 63, something like that.
That's what it was.
And I expected that when I came back, when they sent me down. You know, I expected that, and we played a lot better. I think Galarraga was here.
Yes.
And we played a lot better. We hit back-to-back, and we caused a few problems.
Unfortunately, the final day of the season, the Expos were playing in New York. You tore up your leg, serious injury.
Yeah, it was a major injury. I mean, it hurt. I mean, I had to fly back. Everybody was prepared to leave New York and go home. You know, I was going from there to North Carolina. But I had to fly back on the team plane and have surgery on my knee. I mean, it banged it up pretty good. And unfortunately for me, I was released that winter, and I think it was because of that injury. And I had to work my way back.
You're rehabbing. Tell us about the chain of events, Razor, that all went back to you coming back and joining the Indianapolis Indians in mid-season in 1986.
Well, I had to get in shape. After the surgery, you know, it was a long rehab process, and I knew that if I was going to play baseball again, I had to get in shape. I had to get in the best shape I could get in. And I started in the gym. I got in as good a shape as I could. I played pickup basketball a lot, and it helped. I mean, it got the weight down, and then I toned it up in the weight room, and I got into the best shape I could get in. And then I talked to my wife. I said, well, honey, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to maybe get this thing a try again. And she said, well, how are we going to do that? And I say, you know what, I've talked to a few of the guys, and I'm going to drive up to Indianapolis. We're going to go to Indianapolis because that's the place where we had the most success in the minor leagues along the way, and see if it'll work out. I'll talk to Max and see what happens.
And so you talked to Max, and Max fortunately wanted you back, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, he did. He said, you know, we'll see what the Expos say about that, Razor, but I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. But make no mistake about it, I want you here. I want you to be a part of it, and we'll see what happens. But the Expos didn't have a position. They didn't have a spot. So Max said, well, can we sign him as the bullpen catcher? We just need him to be in the organization, be a part of that. And the Expos agreed to that and signed me as a bullpen catcher, not on the active roster or anything. But soon after that, I think Randy Hunt was a
Yes.
kid. He got hurt, and I was activated. I mean, I was activated to the playing roster, and things went great from there.
You joined the ball club in Des Moines, came up there nice and relaxed, and got the big hit to win the game.
Yeah, I told, I don't know if it was Jerry Manuel. I think it was Jerry Manuel.
He was a player coach that year.
Yeah, I told Jerry, I said, you know what, Jerry, the first ball I see, I'm going to hit off the wall. He'll tell you that's what I told him. I said, I'm going to try to knock that wall down. And he said, Razor, just don't take it too hard. Just be easy. And Jerry is a baseball man. So I got in. I said, I'm going to take this easy. And the next thing I know, I hit a ball off the wall, drove in a big run, helped us win a ball game.
One thing when we talk about Razor Shines, we talk about a man who was terrific in the clutch. And I always felt that's because you didn't put too much pressure on yourself. You were strong, you believed in yourself, and you were nice and relaxed in key situations.
Well, you know, if guys have asked me, coaches, managers, you know, why is it so different? Your number's so different in these situations. Then I said, you know, I wish I knew. And one of the coaches said that before. He said, yeah, it's because you're relaxed, you're not afraid to fail, and you understand what's in front of you. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, and I saw you more than anybody, I think sometimes in the middle of games, third, fourth, and fifth innings, you would really take quite a cut and swing from your heels.
I wanted to see, there were times when I wanted to see how far I could hit a baseball. But when it came down to it at the end of the game or the game on the line, I put this ball in play. I got to hit it hard somewhere and see what happens.
Well, that Indianapolis Indians club in 1986 just hung in there the first few months. You joined the club and everything started to change, and that team just caught fire over the final couple of months.
Well, a funny story. A good friend of mine who has passed on now, Tommy Dunbar. Just
left-hand hitter.
Left-handed hitter. One of the best friends I've ever had in my life. And I told Tommy, when I was the bullpen catcher, I said, you know, we're doing all right, Tommy, but you're going to look in the paper and you're going to see where we've won 3 or 4 in a row or something like that, and you're going to say to yourself, damn, they activated Razor. And he said, man, y'all won 3 in a row. I said to myself, they activated Razor.
It took a while, but that Indianapolis Indians team caught fire. The parent team, Montreal, was having a rough season, and after a while it was up to Indianapolis and down to Montreal.
And that was so good. I mean, guys, everybody said that. Everybody said that. You came from the big league, you know, it came from the big league, they would say, welcome to the big leagues. And when you got sent up, they say, hey, well, you're going to go to AAA. So we had a good time with that.
The Indians were playing a big series in Buffalo, concluding with a doubleheader with a few weeks to go in the season. The two teams fighting for first place. We get onto the bus on Sunday morning, and Casey Candell says, Buffalo Bisons, that's redundant. Let's beat them twice. And you guys won that doubleheader.
You know, Casey is a guy that I've respected from day one. He played the game as hard as you can play it. And like myself, he cared less who got the credit. He just wanted to win. And that's the type of guy that I was, and I loved him for that.
You know, and I remember in the second game, was 7-inning games, doubleheaders, tied in the bottom of the seventh. Buffalo got its lead man on, did not bunt, hit away and double play, and the Indians won the game in extra innings. And Jerry Manuel saying on the bus to the airport, Jim Marshall, the Buffalo manager, wanted to win by 2. That's why he wasn't bunting in the bottom of the seventh.
Well, that's kind of funny. Jerry is let me put it this way. There are times when he says things that make sense, but they're funny.
Yeah. Let's go back and go forward, rather. Okay, so the team wins the division, and then the series with Denver for the league championship, a Denver team that had Lloyd McClendon on it and Rob Dibble and others. What were your thoughts going into that league championship series?
We're going to win it. There was never any doubt, regardless, the whole series. Whether it was down 1 game, down 2, it didn't matter. We knew as a team that we were going to win that series. It got tough, but we believed it the whole way.
It's down 2-1 coming home. Larry Sorensen winning game 4. Now you're 3 games apiece. You're in the bottom of the 9th of the 7th game, and our franchise is a proud franchise that goes back to 1902. But this has to be the greatest moment, greatest finish, and most dramatic in the history of the franchise. So the Indians are trailing by 2. The inning begins. Darrell Baker, whom I saw this year in Atlanta and Gwinnett, gets a base hit, an out. Tom Nieto gets a hit first and third. Tom Romano gets a hit, scores 1. And then Casey Candell comes up with first and second, 1 out. Now we're down by 1. He lines a base hit to right center field, and it got complicated after that.
Oh, it did. And I remember vividly because I was on deck.
Right.
And Nelson Norman was the runner on second base, as I recall. And Joe Sparks had thrown up the stop sign. And Joe would later say, you know what, with the bases loaded and 1 out, I'll take Razor. We'll take our chances from there. And Norman kept going. And then all of a sudden now he's caught up in a rundown. And that he obviously made an out. And now there's 2 outs and runners on second and third and first base open.
Yes, and before we get to what happened next, Tom Romano ran through. He didn't realize Nelson Norman had been stopped.
Correct.
But here's one thing I admired about you two, is honesty. What Joe Sparks said, bases loaded, 1 out, I remember saying the same thing to you and said, yeah, I'd like to be up there, but you can hit into a double play too. I mean, you got to be realistic.
Absolutely.
And nobody can do it all the time.
Absolutely.
So now it's second and third after the rundown and everything gets sorted. 2 outs. Rob Dibble's pitching for Denver. You're up, and they walk you intentionally.
Howard, I can tell you right now, I was crushed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. All I know now is they're not going to give me a chance. We got 2 runners on second and third, and we're down. We're losing in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs. And I snapped mentally because it's nothing I can do. I wanted to be the guy. We didn't win this thing. Let me lose it. I can handle this. I felt like this is my team. You know, so if we're not going to win, let me be the reason we don't. And I got so frustrated, I slammed my bat down on the plate and busted my bat on the home plate. And the umpire goes, Razor, what are you doing? You can't take a walk with that bat. So I had to go get another bat to finish my walk. And I'm up there jumping around, acting all crazy because I'm trying to make Rob Dibble balk, you know. And I go down to first base, and Lloyd McClendon was the first baseman. He looked at me and he said, Razor, are you crazy? I said, Lord, and I was not joking. I said, if Billy Moore doesn't get a hit here, and you guys think you're going to celebrate on our field, then you'll see how crazy I am.
And then on the 2-2 pitch, Billy Moore lines a base hit to left field and the tying and winning run score.
It was still, in my opinion, one of the best moment on a baseball field for me. Just that base hit, it solidified what we had worked for the whole year and what we had talked about. Ever since I got there, we talked about winning the championship. And not everybody was on board at first, but then we came together as one. And when that happened, oh man, it was a feeling that I'll never forget. And I've heard your call on that. It was unbelievable, and I'll never forget it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a moment none of us will ever forget. So Billy Moore got the base hit to win the championship, and a tribute to your popularity, you were carried off on the fans' shoulders.
Well, I can tell you what, those fans were tremendous baseball fans. I mean, they loved me and I loved them. I can tell you that. And I had gotten Rob Dibble before in that series, and believe me, I'd homered off of him. And Lynn told me later, he said, Razor, because I'd beaten him, and he said, what my intentions were, we may lose that game, but you were not going to beat us that night. And I said, well, you did lose that game, and we joked about that, but that was a good feeling.
The next year, that was the first of 4 straight championships, which is incredible with all the turnover in the minor leagues. You were there for all 4 of them, but there's so much turnover, yet the guys kept winning.
Well, you know what, Howard, that's leadership, that's coaching, that's teaching. We believe once you become a part of this organization or our team, you're going to win. Bottom line, new guys kept coming in, guys, that hadn't won championships. And that was the big thing for me, seeing a guy celebrate for the first time that hadn't been a part of a winner and just taking it to the clubhouse. I enjoyed that.
The 1987 season started. The team opened on the road. I met the team on the road, and we have at least 10 new players or so, and I'm introducing myself to them in the clubhouse, and they all say, we know you. And I'm like, I couldn't quite figure out. Then I heard that my call of Billy Moore's base hit was played on the bus ride from the hotel to the airport in West Palm. And that let everybody know that we were all about winning another championship.
Absolutely. We had a new team, basically a new team, a lot of players. And we played that because we said, hey fellas, this is how we do things here. And everybody knew who you were after that.
It was wonderful, and that was another championship in 1987.
It sure was. It sure was. It was great. We enjoyed it, and that was just part of what we expected.
First round of the playoffs in '87, the Indians won the first 2. Louisville wins the next 2 games and comes from behind dramatically to win Game 4, big comeback. Now it's tough, but the Indians play a great Game 5 in Louisville and some big plays made.
Oh, we did. It was tough. They had an opportunity to win that game. They had a runner on third, 2 outs, and I was playing third base, and Nelson Norman was our shortstop, and it was a ball hit to my left that I couldn't get to. There's no way, I mean, just out of my reach, and God almighty, and I look up, and Nelson Norman had somehow made the play backhanded. Wow. and turned and threw off balance and got him. And we celebrated right there like this is ours. I mean, unbelievable.
And then the championship series, and it was not as dramatic, 4 games to 1 in the championship series, so it was an easier series.
Oh yeah, we after that, after beating Louisville the way we beat Louisville, who's next?
That's right. And then the next year, so back-to-back championships, the motto the next year in 1988 for the Indianapolis Indians was 3 straight and 88, and you guys did it again.
Oh man, what a good club. We enjoyed one another. We hung out after the game. We ate dinner together. I mean, a lot of times in the minor leagues, guys after the game, they go their separate ways. I mean, we were united. I mean, we'd go out to eat together. I mean, girlfriends, wives, we did things together, and we were a unit, and it came together.
To digress for a minute, Mike Smith, Mississippi Mike Smith, and you talked about the team getting together and eating dinner and lunch together. We all went to a restaurant in Buffalo, and there was a picture of Christopher Columbus on the wall, and Mike said to you, Razor, is that a picture of Christopher Columbus? And you said yes. And Mike said, well, I know he discovered America. Did he discover Buffalo too?
That's one, and that's one of the funniest things that Mike can say. Mike always said things that were different, but when he said that, it was hard to keep a straight face anywhere. I mean, we told that story and we tell it today. So that's how that was.
The 1988 team started 1-6, lost 4 straight at Nashville, 1-6. Won a few games, were about 5-8. Then we had a Denver, Oklahoma City, Buffalo road trip, and Otis Nixon said to me, when we come home, we're going to be in first place, and we were.
Well, I tell you what, you bring up a name, Otis Nixon. I mean, here's a guy that could cover some ground. He could run a ball down, and in fact, people joke that, you know, 2/3 of the world is covered by water, and Otis Nixon covers that other third. So we felt real good after we came home after that road trip, and we just took off.
Randy Johnson was with the Indians in 1988. What were your impressions of him when you saw him?
Well, like most guys, here's a guy that's a big guy. He throws hard, needs to command the ball a little bit better, but he's an intimidating guy out there on the mound.
Randy Johnson went on to win 5 Cy Young Awards, become one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Can anybody foresee something like that happening?
Well, you couldn't foresee that. You couldn't see that. I mean, but I tell you, this guy, you saw the way the ball jumped out his hand. I've been back there and caught him. And I've seen left-handed batters, soon as he start getting out of the way. So you knew this guy had something.
And he had a competitive streak in him that when he got to the big leagues really manifested itself.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And I remember one game in Louisville. I was catching Randy, and we're giving somebody a day off. I can't recall who it was, but I was his catcher, and they had a guy named Joe Patini.
I remember. He later managed the Louisville.
Yes, he was a little scrappy guy, and he was fouling off pitch, fouling off pitch, fouling off pitch, fouling off pitch. Randy said, "Time out." So, Razor, come here. So I go to the mound. I said, "What's up?" He said, "He want to get on base that bad. I'm going to hit him in the head." I say, "Whoa, Randy, you can't do that, man." He said, "I'm going to smoke him. He want to get on base that bad. I'm going to hit him in the head." This is the truth. This is a true story. So I go back behind the plate, and Joe said, "Razor, what's that about?" I said, "Joe, I think he's going to hit you, man." He said, "What?" I said, "You know, I think he's going to hit you." Joe said, "What did I do?" I said, "You know, let's just play ball. Maybe he's just talking." He hit him in the middle of the back with about 100-mile-an-hour fastball and yelled at him, "Now go to first."
You saw his competitive nature there.
Oh, my goodness. I think they might have got one hit that night.
Wow.
That's the kind of competitive nature he had.
Otis Nixon and Rex Hudler resurrected their careers that season, but you lost a lot of players to the big leagues along the way, but that team kept on winning, and I think not only the players deserve credit, but Joe Sparks deserves credit too.
Yeah, because we lost a lot of players to the AAA team. Remember, they're going up to AAA. No, we did. We lost a lot of players, but everybody that we plugged in continued to shine. I mean, continued to go. We lose a guy, for instance, I don't know who we lost, but you'd get a guy like a Shepard or Alonzo Powell or you know, to replace Otis Nixon. I don't know how it went. It was so long, 30 plus years ago, but just kept going. It just kept ticking. And Joe Sparks was the reason.
Yeah, he was great with players. You played for some terrific managers here.
Absolutely. Some terrific managers. And you know, I can't even begin to say who was the top of the line. But I can tell you one thing. Joe Sparks not managing in the major leagues, I think it was an injustice.
That's an interesting point. You raised the other guys. Buck Rogers, you played for, managed in the major leagues. Felipe Alou the next year managed in the major leagues. Tom Runnels, who succeeded Joe Sparks, managed in the major leagues. Tim John, well, you weren't there in 1991. Jerry Manuel managed in the major leagues. So most of the managers you played for went on and managed in the big leagues here. And that says something about the Montreal Expos, I think.
Well, I think you're right. And for all those guys to manage in the big leagues and Joe Sparks not to manage in the big leagues, here's a guy that handled players as good as anybody I've ever been around. I mean, he knew how to motivate players. He knew how to pick a guy up. I mean, he'd crack a joke at a time when you needed to hear a joke. I mean, he was unbelievable. And I thought it was for sure he was going to manage in the big league.
1989, great pitching, and a fourth straight championship.
You know what? In the saying that year was Ford's fine in '89. Right. So we did. We had pitching. We had a young position player team, guys like DeShields and Grisham, Walker, Cordero. We had a young team as far as position players go, young but very, very talented.
You provided great leadership to this ball club, and that would say the right thing at the right time to a younger player. In 1989, we had Larry Walker, tremendous talent. Man on first, 2 outs, he tried to bunt. And you yelled out from the dugout, "Hey, bunt one in the gap."
Well, you know what? He learned the game of baseball that year. I mean, as far as skill set goes, Larry Walker was as good as anybody. And his instincts on the base pass were better than anybody's. I can tell you that. I've never seen a guy with those kind of base running skills. I can remember telling him that, "Hey, what are you doing? Bunt the ball in the gap." So that is a true statement.
1991 and 92, the Indians had good teams, but finished second to Buffalo each year.
Yeah, they were. They had a better club, but that didn't mean we didn't have the same approach. We felt like we were going to win. They just, when it all was so said and done, they were the best club.
1993 was your final year as a player, and the Reds were the parent team. And that was not a good year in terms of wins and losses.
No, it wasn't. It was a different year. You know, I was going into a situation where I'm now coaching too for the first time. And, I'm coaching kids, players that I normally would be playing with, and didn't quite understand how to do that. And it was a tough year for us, and it was the last year that I played here.
And then that final Saturday, we had Razor Shines Day at Busch Stadium, and only twice in the history of the franchise, 1933 Frank Sigafus, 1993 Razor Shines, has a player been honored, and you got a Chevy Lumina.
You know what? I did get a couple hits that night. In fact, I hit a double high off the wall in right field. And Luis Arcea was the second baseman for, I think it was Louisville we were playing. And he told me, and I quote, he said, "Razor, man, I wish that would have went out." I mean, he was a good guy. He understood the moment, and it was just a great day.
You know, it's amazing. You had your own day. I know it can be tough to relax and still perform well, but you still had a few hits even on Razor Shines Day.
Well, you know what? At that time of the year, I knew the end was coming, but I was swinging the bat at that period as good as I've swung it. You know, I had people saying, "Man, you sure you want to, hang this up?" You know, I think later in that season, I think maybe the last week or a week before that, I was American Association Player of the Week. I mean, I swinging the bat as good as I've swung it.
The next time we saw you in uniform again, 2006, you were managing the AAA Charlotte Knights, and you came to Victory Field as the opposing manager.
Oh man, these fans here, they didn't forget. They knew what we'd done in the early to mid to late '80s. I mean, they knew. If they didn't know, there were people that was telling them. And I mentioned to my team, I said, "Hey guys, this is going to be a good series. It's a beautiful city, and before we leave here, they're going to be pulling for us."
Well,
and both teams were pretty good that year.
We were in first place at the time. And
Yeah.
So were you.
Yes. Two really good teams, two different divisions. And the guy said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "No. I mean, you'll see." So the top of the first, I run out to third base, and get an ovation from the crowd. And all of a sudden they're saying, "Razor, Razor, Razor." And my team look at me, and then when I get in, they're like, "What in the did you do?" I said, "We had fun here, man. We won, and we played hard, so let's go."
Yeah, there was a great attitude all the years you played here of, yes, guys are trying to go to Montreal in the major leagues, but do your thing, do things right, and the big leagues will take care of themselves.
Absolutely. That was the approach that we were trying to teach kids as a manager. I said, you got to do things in order to win. You got to do things the right way. Don't worry about getting to the big leagues, because if you worry about getting to the big leagues, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen as soon as you want.
Last time you went to the big leagues as a player, 1987, and then you were optioned back to Indianapolis from Montreal. And I remember I think we were on the road in Buffalo, but wherever we were, you got back immediately. You didn't take 72 hours. You were back in less than 24 hours, and that said something about you and your character.
No doubt about it. When they told me that I was going to be sent down, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Can I leave now?" Because I wanted to be able to play that night in Indianapolis.
Yes. 2007, a coach with the White Sox in the big leagues. What was it like being a big league coach in the American League?
Well, it was my first time being a major league coach, and it was exciting. And I was the coach under a very fiery guy, a guy by the name of Ozzie Guillen. He was a guy that would do anything, say anything. And
He got himself in trouble a lot of times.
He did.
He said.
He did, but he didn't really care. This is a guy that was going to say what he want, and how he want, and when he want. But that's the way he was, and I'm not going to knock somebody for being themselves. That's the way he is.
The next time you got to the big leagues as a coach was with the New York Mets, and you're with your close friend Jerry Manuel, who was the manager. Tell us about that.
I tell you what, that was fun. That was fun. In 2008, I was with the Philadelphia Phillies. They needed from what I understand, they were interviewing me for the AAA job. And after the interview, they told me, they said, "Well, Razor, I got to be completely honest with you. The AA manager is going to manage the AAA team. And we got a guy coming from A-ball who's going to manage the AA team. We want you in the organization. That we have to have you in the organization. And we'll give you AAA money, and we'll pay for your major league insurance." I said, "Well, I'll have to discuss that with my wife. I'm coming from the major leagues, and then they want me to go to A-ball, and so I talked it over with my wife, and she said, "Well, they're going to give you AAA money, and you're going to get your major league insurance paid for." Sure, let's try it. Let's do it. Well, it was a good year there, as this ring right here can attest to.
It's a beautiful ring.
It's the '08 World Series ring with the Phillies, and it was a great year.
I like your you might show that to the camera, your Indianapolis Indians rings that you're wearing too. You got 5 of them.
I do have 5 of them, and the '84 ring, it's got a crack in it. I dropped it, showing it to somebody. So that's one of the reasons now when I show my rings off, I don't usually take them off. I show them like this, because I took it off and let somebody hold it, and it was dropped, and it got cracked.
I thought that might have been because Louisville beat us 4-2 in the postseason.
Oh, you thought I might have? No, it was accidentally dropped. But that's 86, 87, 88, and 89.
And then we're going back to a moment to Jerry Manuel in the Mets. You developed a friendship with Jerry when he was in Indianapolis as a player coach in 86 and a manager in 91.
Yes, he called me after he got the job midway through the season in 08. I think he replaced Willie Randolph.
Yes.
And he was the manager, and they were going to bring him back. And he called me and says, "Hey, Razor, I'm going to need a third base coach. Are you interested?" I said, "Am I interested?" He says, "Yeah, I want you to be a part of this because you know what winning is about. You understand winning, and those type things we discussed." And he said, "But you got to come in for an interview. It's just a formality. You got to meet everybody, but you're going to be my guy." He said, "But first, we got to get permission from the Phillies to talk to you." I said, "Yes, sir." So the Phillies granted the permission, and they told me, they called me and said that, New York has asked for permission to interview you for a major league job, but they really wanted me to stay in the organization. And I said, "Well, it's something I'll have to discuss with my wife." But I knew that I was going to take that position. I mean, I knew that. Jerry's a friend of mine. He's as good a man as I've ever met in baseball. I mean that when I say that. And he's not going. I've never heard him swear, ever. And he's a truthful guy. He's going to tell you the truth. So that went. It didn't go as planned. We had a really good team. From Carlos Beltran to David Wright, not Carlos, Johan Santana, Carlos Delgado, Jose Reyes. We had a really good team. Injury bug hit us. Everybody that I just mentioned got hurt, all of them. And we quickly fell into some hard times. And after the 2009 season, it cost both of us our jobs.
Then after the Mets, you managed and coached in the minor leagues for several years, and one year you were with your son.
Right. The Los Angeles Dodgers drafted my son out of Oklahoma State, and they hired me as a manager in the organization. And I got to manage my son one year in the Midwest League, and to this day, that is one of my highlights, that to be able to manage your son and see him do things. I remember when he hit a 3-run homer to win a game, and the reporter asked me what I felt, and I said, "I can tell you this. I've gotten my first hit in the major leagues. I've done a lot of things in the major leagues. Nothing felt as good as seeing him hit that 3-run homer."
Razor, it's been wonderful speaking with you. We could talk to you forever. Thank you for all you did for the Indianapolis Indians fans, for our community, and thank you so much for taking time out today as well.
Howard, it is my pleasure. Indianapolis is home. It's always going to be home, regardless of where I live. Indy is a place that I love. I can't even say it. It's a place that I love and will always love. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching our special, The Life and Times of Razor Shines. See you next season.